Most ambitious men think mental toughness means suppressing emotions, pushing harder, and refusing to slow down. But what if that definition is actually holding you back? In this episode, I sit down with retired Navy SEAL, entrepreneur, real estate developer, leader, and investor James Lascara to discuss mental toughness, emotional awareness, leadership, entrepreneurship, self-awareness, and the hidden trade-offs that come with pursuing extraordinary goals. James shares how his military experience shaped his approach to leadership, why emotional awareness is often misunderstood, how elite performers and entrepreneurs process setbacks differently, and why success frequently comes with sacrifices most people never see. James Lascara is a real estate sales associate, investor, developer, and business leader based in the Tampa Bay area. Since 2022, James has facilitated over $50 million in sales volume right here in the Tampa Bay area. He's the founder of The Elite Investor, widely renowned as the center of excellence for collaboration among serious Tampa real estate investors focused on real estate investing and development, high-level collaboration, entrepreneurship, and empowering business leaders in the industry for sustainable growth. James is a U.S. military veteran with 15 years as a Navy officer and spent as a Navy SEAL. He continues to pour his efforts into bettering the community and the people in his community right here in the Tampa Bay area. I've been fortunate enough to know James for several years now, and every time I interact with him, I always walk away impressed and learning something new. So without further ado, allow me to introduce you to James Lascara. James, you've operated in environments where pressure, uncertainty, and consequences were extreme, both as a Navy SEAL and now as a high-level entrepreneur and leader in your businesses. So I'm curious, what do you think ambitious men misunderstand most about mental toughness?
Oh man, such a good question. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm so honored. I think what you're doing in the mindset space for small business owners, entrepreneurs, and driven people, driven men is remarkable. I think, the first thing that immediately came to mind in response to this question is that a lot of people think that it's a place they get to, in other words, a destination. And I think that is very false because it is a lifelong journey. You don't just arrive someday. We're like, I got it. Like, I'm right at the level of leadership I want to be. I'm right at the level of achievements I want to be. I think it's a constant journey. And as soon as you think you've made it, life will humble you.
Life has a funny, consistent way of doing that. And so I'm curious, I grew up where more or less it wasn't safe to show emotion. So my version of mental toughness was, don't show emotion. I'm not allowed to feel anxious, sad, worry, scared because that's weak, that's vulnerable. As a man, I don't do that. Stereotypically speaking, at least from my experience, and you can shed much more light, the military really could potentially drill that down even further. So a lot of men I work with, they are masters at repressing emotion. They're masters at avoiding emotion. Why do you think that is? And is being emotionally aware and intelligent actually a sign of extreme mental toughness?
Man, that's an hour just on that. Why do so I would agree with you that the military takes it one step further. I think there's been kind of like an awakening of sorts to realize it's probably not the best way. But I'm not in the military anymore. When I was in the military, I think that was very much a thing. I think there was word service of like, it's okay to not be okay, stuff like that. But I don't think people actually believe that. I think it was like, hey, let's just say this so we can say we did our part. I think it's uncomfortable. I think it can also go too far into readiness in the military. Like the military exists fundamentally to wage violence on behalf of our country in an extremely aggressive way when needed. And I think if you get a little bit too soft to like, oh, let's make sure we really like the mental health over like getting the mission done. I think you for someone whose purpose is that, I think you can go too far and be like, hey, we've created a lot of softies here. Am I saying mental health is unimportant? No, please don't take that out of context even for a moment. But I think that's perhaps why.
Yeah.
That might be the answer as to why. Can you say the second part of that question though? To remind me?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you shared that and positioned it the way it is. So like I can even flip the second part of the conversation to be much more specific now with that in mind. You now lead and coach and mentor a variety of different business owners, many of which I imagine struggle with emotional avoidance and repression. How have you seen that struggle bleed into their business and negatively influence their ability to scale and grow?
I got off a call before this podcast. I got off a call 30 minutes ago, and it was a one-on-one discussion, and I was talking to somebody in the group who is experiencing some challenges, and that's making him a little bit emotional. I think of our decision making as humans in the following way: you have rationale, excuse me, or logic, same thing. You have like, you can add up to 100 points. You have rational and logic thinking,
Okay.
and you have emotional thinking. And if you take 10 points to the emotional side, you only have 90 left for the rational. And the more emotional a situation is making you become, the less logic that you're applying to this. I think there's some studies that have been done. I haven't memorized them. I couldn't quote the study or even the name of it. But I have heard that before and I believe it. And so I think the first thing that I encourage people to do, and by the way, for any listeners, like just because this is my way, maybe there's a better way that works for you. And I encourage you to really explore that. This is, I think, what works for me.
Yeah.
Don't ignore the things that are frustrating you or make you emotional about this problem. Give yourself some time to process it. And what I told this guy on the phone, I was like, dude, I feel like we bounced around to 10 different things on this call about like what the actual issue is. I think you need to give yourself some time. Like, I still feel like you're kind of in this victim mindset of like, oh, why is all this happening? And that's a natural response. I get that. But give yourself like an hour, give yourself today to just like feel it. And then after that, I'm gonna give you homework and it's gonna be solutions. Like, don't not feel it, but like, give yourself time to process this. Then we're gonna move on and we're gonna solve it. And all that like feeling state, let's move beyond that. You've given yourself time to feel bad about it. That part's done. Let's now seek the solutions.
Really well said. And from my experience, and I imagine yours is similar, if we continue to move too quickly and bypass or avoid feeling those emotions, we're not able to effectively apply the right solution, even though we have them. So I'm curious for you, like personally, what does that process of just taking time to sit with or feel through them actually look like?
I think it depends on the thing. I can move pretty quickly beyond stuff when it's like a data type issue.
Hmm.
Like hey, the market is not going to support the exit price that you thought you could achieve on a real estate development. Like there's not a lot of human involvement in that, right?
Hmm.
It's like it's just facts. Like I think I can move pretty quickly when it's something frustrating like that. I think where I sometimes have to spend a little extra time is when there's a human on the other end of it and that other human has a negative feeling or like they're frustrated with something I did or I'm going to disappoint somebody with news I have to tell them or something like that. That's where I know this about myself that I have a tendency to come across like uh pretty harsh, heartless, ruthless, like very almost just like lacking all empathy. I think I have a natural it's not because I lack all empathy, it's I just have a tendency to come across that way.
Hmm.
And so I like to spend a little bit extra time thinking about, despite my feelings on it, like how am I going to do my part in showing up and communicating with this other person in a way that's not heartless? Because I have to give it more thought because my natural tendency is to be heartless, not to actually be heartless, communicate in a heartless way. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And that process is just indicative of how much you do care. You're thoughtful enough to slow down and make sure that the intention and whatever it is you're articulating comes across the right way. So for you, Is that just simply time? Does it occur during a workout? Do you journal? Is there anything tangible you do to kind of expedite getting to that place of clarity?
I think workouts help. Journal, I've not found to be super helpful for me. And then maybe talking to somebody who I think we share similar like ambition and maybe like traits, like
Mhm.
ethical viewpoints on things.
Yeah, that totally
Yeah.
makes sense. So for somebody listening who is completely unaware of just how they come across, like their tendencies, you have to have a level of success for that the listener has, they have to have some awareness. When I listen to you, and I've had the privilege of getting to know you over the last few years, like your self-awareness is incredibly sharp. So the two questions I have to that is, one, does that come naturally or have you had to work on it? And two, what can somebody listening do to expedite that level of self-awareness?
So, man, you love to ask the two parts and I have to get the second part repeated because I'm a
I
one
got
track
you.
mind. No, I appreciate the compliment. I don't consider myself that self aware. I think I've stepped on my own shoes a lot of times in the process of communicating with others. I think I used to be way worse. I have gotten better. I don't think I'm super good at it now. It's something
Hmm.
I've strived to get better at. I mean, I've been in conversations where I've had people start crying. I'm like, why are you even like? What made you upset? And they're like, it's how you said that. I'm like, what? So, I mean, there's been some pretty glaring things where I'm like, dude, you do not know how you come across. So, um,
So how do
so
you
is
work on it
and
then?
what's that?
How do you work on it?
Here's the second part of the question. I think you have to get feedback. I think you have to
Mm,
get feedback. And I heard a long time ago that when you ask for feedback or someone gives well-intentioned feedback, and it's very clear that even though maybe it's not what you wanted to hear, maybe it is well-intentioned, the first answer is always thank you. The first response is always thank you because you're probably going to be able to become aware of something you didn't realize before. Get a different perspective.
do you have a mentor or a coach or multiple?
Yeah, I have several. I think
Yeah,
everyone should have a mentor.
absolutely. And obviously I'm biased, but I've had multiple coaches for almost 2 decades. So I absolutely agree. Well, so something you said is quite interesting to me. You had leadership roles and responsibilities in the military and then transitioned into, from the outside, I see you leading your community, leading your intimate team, and you just show up as a leader in the community. What did you really have to learn about being able to effectively lead once you got out of the military into what you're doing now?
What did I have to learn that I didn't learn in the military?
Yeah, did everything you learned in the military directly apply to how you need to show up as a leader now in this new environment?
I almost didn't even really think about it. I'm like, what do I need to change? I think I just
Mm,
took. I was like, I'm gonna take exactly all the things I learned and just
okay.
apply it here in a little bit different way. I don't until you asked this question today. I don't think I've ever even really like given it too much thought. There's some language differences and the what we call things is a little bit different, and I probably curse a little bit less now than like I did in the military. Probably the sense of humor is a little bit different too.
Okay.
Um, but leadership wise, no, I think that's something I'm really grateful that's helped me a lot.
Mm, that's great to hear. Yeah. And, if anything, based on what you shared earlier, maybe it's just continuing that journey of self awareness in terms of how you come across. Because I imagine communicating with a team in the civilian space and the real estate space is a little bit different than communicating with your SEAL buddies.
Yeah, but ultimately it's very similar too, right?
How
You
so?
you uh you have a mission, you have roles identified within the organization that are
Hmm.
complementary to team cohesion, all of which drive forward progress towards the mission. It's important that everyone understands their position on the team with that role, as well as what they need to do if somebody else is absent or not able to do the role, like a contingency type plan. You have expectations of like standard operating procedures. I mean, we literally like my team, we call them SOPs. Or
Yeah.
hey, we messed this up. Like we need to add this to our SOP for the future. So I think a lot of those things are similar. Here's another thing that's super similar, like risk mitigation. The only difference is if we make a military mistake, we could fail the mission or people could die. If we have a business mistake, somebody loses their job or you lose quite a bit of money or you have like litigation. So, um, still negative consequences, but maybe people's
Hmm.
lives aren't at stake.
Do you implement EOS or the traction principles?
Yeah, we use some of it. We're not like
Okay.
running entirely off that book, but yeah, we have a L10 every
Yeah.
once a week. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I've gotten to know your team, and yeah, they're incredibly sharp. Everything seems to be very much like clockwork. So interesting to hear, it's very militaristic in many ways, but it's also just that's really the core tenets of effective leadership and scaling a business in the business world in general. So let me shift gears for us. A lot of our listeners are quietly, secretly exhausted, but they have no idea how to stop or slow down because their entire identity is tied to producing, winning, achieving, nonstop, go, go, go. Have you personally struggled with that?
Dude, I'd say I'm in that struggle now. I would say I'm in that struggle right now. I how do I say this? I was talking to a really close colleague this past week and he's like, "What really fills your cup?" I was like, "Dude, just getting results." Like I don't if the business isn't going like I think it should and I go on vacation, I'm not going to relax. Like I'm just going to be thinking about and somebody listening to this might be like, "Yeah, it's not healthy." Okay, maybe you're right. You know what? Maybe that works great for you, but nothing really fills my cup like working towards a goal, seeing that goal get achieved, and then seeing where we can make tweaks to get an even enhanced kind of success from there. Like, dude, that is
Hmm.
so rewarding to me. That's everything.
Yeah.
And then doing with others. So I would say I'm kind of in a season right now where it's like that.
And I would say the vast majority of our listeners are. I've been in that season many times for extended lengths of time. What are the trade offs, or what do you feel you've sacrificed from what some might describe as a typical, I'm using air quotes, kind of life by being that driven and enmeshed in always striving to produce and improve?
Man, um, well, I'm a believer that if it's important enough to someone, they would do it. Like if it was really that important to me, I would. If you
Hmm.
really that saying, like, if you really, really wanted to, you would. So these are trade-offs I've kind of just accepted at this point. I mean, I'm 38 years old. People can change, but I know enough about myself at this point to know, like, I'm not really gonna change uh, how I'm driven or how I view things, I guess. I think I'm just conditioned for fun in a different way. I'm not saying my way is the way everyone should be. I'm not even saying my way is healthy. But, like, I had a buddy, a few years back, he's like, "Dude, it's like with you, winning is more fun than fun is fun." I'm like, "Okay."
That's one of
Yeah,
my favorite quotes.
I don't know who did it. I thought he came up with it on the spot. I don't know who ever said that,
I
but
heard it from Ed Milet.
okay. And I'm not saying, like, winning at the expense of others, losing or anything like that. Like, the best wins that we've had in my life were collaborations. I would say it gets pretty hard to, um it really does get pretty hard to unwind and just shut off your mind a little bit and have people just like, "Oh, like, have that have that peace, just, like, zen out." Like, getting to that place is very unnatural for me.
Yeah. How do you? If you're getting those signs or signals that you're starting to teeter on the edge of, just running yourself into the ground. I'm not going to go as far to say burnout or anything, but what do you do to kind of recalibrate, maybe is a better word?
Something I've noticed on days where I feel more frustrated and I'm kind of on edge, I've probably not done contrast, like sauna cold plunge. I've probably
Mm,
not worked out.
okay.
So on the inverse, like those two things help a lot. Like I think there is something about overcoming stressful, challenging things with your body that puts your mind into a place where like, oh, I can do stressful, challenging things and I can do them routinely and I can succeed at them. And then I think how we met, right? Like sauna cold plunge, getting that, it's probably the only place where like I put down my phone for a whole hour.
Mm-hmm.
And the good thing I would say, if you have not done sauna cold plunge, or if you don't have a practice like this, I know it's really catchy these days. Like it seems to have grown much more popular. If you don't have if you don't have a practice like that, what I would say is it always just gives you +2. So if you're having a
Yeah.
tough day, if you're a 2 out of 10 on your day, you're gonna leave and you'll be a 4. Is your day
Yeah.
fixed? Is everything all like roses and rainbows? No. But at least now you're a 4. If you're a
Yeah.
1, now you're a 3. If you're an 8, now you're 10 of 10. So it
Yeah.
always gives you like +1 or 2.
I like that framework. That's
Yeah.
really impactful, easy to relate with. So, as you've been aware of some of the trade offs or sacrifices you've needed to make to bring your goals to fruition, leave your legacy, have the impact you want, what have you noticed the impact been on some of the key relationships in your life as you continue to strive towards a bigger mission and bigger goals?
Um I don't know how to answer that. Let me I sat down with an old neighborhood friend this past holiday season, and we used to be really close. It's like kind of like a second mom. And we sat down and we hadn't talked like we hadn't seen each other in probably a few years. And she started crying at dinner. I totally didn't expect it. She started crying and she was like, "I don't even know if you know me anymore." And I was like, I mean, we've texted and called, and we've, how relationships are. Like sometimes you just naturally grow a little bit distant. Nobody did anything wrong. There wasn't
Hmm.
anything malicious. There was nothing bad. You just grew a little bit distant. And it kind of got me thinking. I was like, because you see that I talk about business a lot on social media, or that things seem on social media like they're going as good as possible, which, by the way, is like social media is not real life. It's almost like I was an easy person to vilify as being the one
Hmm.
um, who let that relationship become distant. But it kinda made me wonder, like, if I was doing poorly in life, would you feel more natural about, like, "Hey, maybe I was dealing with my challenges and I didn't do well with overcoming them, and now I'm doing poorly in life," to where she wouldn't be so upset. So it's almost like
Hmm.
James became paraphrasing here, but like
Yeah.
James became successful and he outgrew this relationship and now he's no longer there for me. I'm like, I feel like that's not totally fair to me because we just grew distant naturally. This woman is a great woman. She's awesome. Let me just say that, by the way.
I appreciate you sharing that. I have found in my experience that that level of success is easy to blame because we both know like the average person here, especially in America, is, unhealthy, unhappy, overweight, broke, stressed, anxious. And it's very easy to naturally adapt to that victim mentality when that is kind of the sum of who you are. You see people going and growing, and you have a million excuses as to why you can't or why you won't. Success is very easy to demonize or villainize in this situation.
Yeah. And I don't blame her for that, but it made me wonder.
Yeah.
I don't know
So
if that
what's
answered
some
your question.
it do absolutely. You mentioned a current challenge in this particular season of life, and maybe this is this answer to this question, but has there ever been a season where on paper you looked incredibly successful, externally all the boxes are checked, it looks like things are going well, but internally you just felt disconnected, exhausted, and out of alignment?
I would say that I've been through a few seasons like that. I would probably say I'm in one now.
So when you notice some of those signs, what's the three-step blueprint James uses to get out of that rut, so to speak?
I think like, if it's something atypical for you and it's not something you experience routinely, I think you need to lean on the network that you've created and people you really trust. Ideally, somebody who can relate to what you're going through. If I'm like, one of our business goals is to achieve a certain income amount in one business in 1 year. That's a goal for this year. I'm not gonna go to somebody to get advice who not only has not achieved that, but couldn't even fathom the thought of it. Like, that doesn't make sense because they're not gonna be able to relate. So I think the first thing is leaning on your network, and specifically people who can relate and you do trust. That's the first thing. The second thing is create a plan. So, like honestly, lately I love using AI for this. Hey, here's all the things that are going on right now. Here are the things we've done so far about it. Here are some ideas I have now to be able to implement on this. Like, what am I missing? What do you recommend? Help me create a plan for the next 90 days to sort out, XYZ issue.
Mm,
I think that is really good. And then I also think when it's a business thing and you have an organization, getting buy-in from the team
yeah.
on the ideation of solutions and then the execution of solutions phase is
Mm.
probably part 3. So, um,
Your network. I've
yeah,
experienced as I've continued to go and grow in the direction I want to. My network in some ways has gotten smaller, it's contracted, but in other ways it's expanded. So you're
yeah.
mentioning, I'm curious, have you found it difficult to find people who can relate to your challenges at this particular level to actually then build a trusting relationship in which you can confide about your challenges?
Yeah, I'm just gonna use real numbers. Like
Hmm.
uh, you get the point here. I don't know the exact numbers, but the income and by the way, I'm not like a money is everything kind of person. I think money is just part of a scoreboard and it's easy metric to track. It's
Yeah.
probably the easiest in business to track. And money is just commensurate to the problems you're solving. My purpose in life is positive impact on others via leadership, entrepreneurship, community. And so one way that can be measured is with money. So that's kind of my disclaimer with money. If what am I trying to achieve in one business in 1 year with our net profitability is has only been achieved by 1% of the global population. That's a small amount of people compared to if I was like, "Hey, I wanna go be able to walk a mile." Like, guess what? 90% of the global population has at some point been able to walk a mile. So, the higher your goal that you're aiming to achieve and the less that people have accomplished it or can even, like, process the idea of it being accomplishable, the smaller that room gets. It's just numbers, right? The more above
Yeah.
average you wanna be, the less people that you're gonna find that are at that level.
How have you found those people? Or perhaps better said, how have you attracted them to you?
I think game knows game. Game knows
Yeah.
game, and so there's a certain there's certain types of activities that successful people do and don't do. There's a certain way that successful people communicate and set their schedule, and there's a way that they don't. So just paying
Yeah.
attention to, like, how people behave, I think is a pretty clear indicator.
Really well said. Am I correct? And obviously, correct me if I'm not. The community you lead now, one of many, the Elite Investor Mindset Group, that was kind of just your baby that started a couple guys around some couches at a house and now has, grown into what it is today.
Yeah, sort of. Like originally, I had no intention of making it what it eventually became, and it
Uh,
became kind of this like educational event where people wanted more and they wanted access to better business building concepts, resources, ideas, and support. And so we created that as a kind of as a never originally intended byproduct of what we were already doing. So in
yeah.
a roundabout way, yeah.
Yeah. And like when you told me that story, that's why I wasn't quite clear. You told me a variation of it a while ago when we first met. Like it almost seems to me in one way too, as you started seeing kind of who your tribe was, that allows you to attract more like-minded people so that you could continue to go and grow around the right people, which obviously we both know helps you scale faster.
Accurate.
Yeah. Interesting. Really, really cool. So talk to us then. So you've got the Elite Investor Mindset Group. What have you noticed in terms of the differences between decision making and speed to decision making between the struggling entrepreneur and the successful entrepreneur?
I think successful entrepreneurs think of most things in the framework of asymmetric bets, and they get really good at identifying this kind of like framework for their particular asymmetric bet. And when they put it into this machine kind of concept they've created with that framework, they can make decisions that are they're not always accurate. They're not always like 100%. decisions, but they're probably like 80%, 90% plus, and they can make
Mm.
them pretty rapidly. That's
What's their
something that
relationship with failure compared to somebody who might be struggling?
say that again, please.
So somebody who's had success and is, just continuing to have more and more success, what is their relationship with failure or setbacks? And how does that differ from somebody who is struggling, unable to ever to achieve that success?
Well, I think the part that a lot of people don't comprehend until they get there and then they become this, this lofty person that other people admire is the person that you're seeing achieve a lot of success has probably failed more than you've even attempted. They probably have more failures on their belt than like you could even comprehend. And that is part of what made them really elite at what they do. They just they don't have a need to always broadcast that to you. Cause I think at a certain point it sounds whiny.
Absolutely. And it's almost too like the words I would put to it to echo what you said is they're not necessarily numb to failure. They just view it as feedback data points, and they're quick to not only learn, but they're quick to implement whatever new information they've learned to keep moving in the direction they desire.
Yeah, exactly.
So one of the groups that you intimately coach, and you can share as much or little as you want, but are people who have had some significant success financially and in terms of other real estate specific metrics. They're owners, operators, founders, who again, on paper, they look incredibly successful to the outside world. What's a common challenge you're seeing in that specific demographic that somebody from the outside looking in might never guess is present?
So what might, if I could say the question a different way, people that are in the group, what challenges are they facing that would be a surprise?
Yeah, especially the smaller group that you coach.
The CEO one?
Correct.
So the elite investor CEO, let me just explain the difference between the two groups really quick. So we kind of have three levels. I won't touch on the lower one because it doesn't sound relevant to this. So elite investor mindset group is the center of excellence for collaboration in Tampa real estate. So we spend time on like deal making, resources to grow the business, and then a good amount of discussion on technical application, technical expertise in real estate investing. What are some additional levers you can add to your business that can lead to an enhanced result with the deals or business strategy that you're doing? CEO is a higher level group for people who have demonstrated technical mastery in their real estate investing business.
Okay.
And so that group is a lot more about leadership and business scale, hiring, culture. Um, that's hiring, culture, numbers are probably the main things. So things that would be a surprise is we had our call yesterday and this came up across the board of every member. They struggle with the same things you struggle with. They struggle with all the same things that everybody is having challenges with right now. Things are costing more than they used to by like a large margin. Things are taking longer than they used to. The exit price on projects doesn't support the ARV it used to support if you're doing like flips or new developments or whatever. So they're facing all the same challenges that everyone else is. They just have a different way of processing them and moving through them. So
At that level, how are they getting in their own way? What is a common form of sabotage you've observed working with those individuals?
I think it differs for each person. I think sometimes they tend to cling too long, myself included. We tend to cling too long to something we once knew was true and kind of maybe
Mm,
stop working because the environment changed. And
yeah.
we're a little bit hesitant to accept that has now, like the fact is that now no longer works,
Yeah.
and then B, change.
That makes sense. And thanks for breaking down the two. I was tiptoeing around that vaguely because I didn't know how publicly broadcasted the CEO group was. So I'm glad that you could shed some light
Oh,
on
it's fine.
comparing and
Yeah.
contrasting the two. So what's
Yeah.
interesting to me,
People
okay,
people are in CEO are also in the mid-level group, but not vice versa.
that tracks. Okay.
Yeah.
So you spent 15 years in the military. thank you, by the way, for your service. You
Yeah.
were a SEAL. You transitioned into, you didn't skip a beat as you transitioned full time into the entrepreneurial world. How much of your drive comes from inspiration and purpose versus this deep need to prove yourself or avoid failure?
Um, let me start with this. It's a really deep question. With the military thing, I think this is a common thing among special operations. It's like, did the military make you the way that you are, or did you gravitate toward what you did in the military because you already were that way? And I think actually each person is different. I think it can both, both examples can be true depending on the circumstances. For me, I was like super driven, and so
Huh.
that caused me to gravitate towards towards what I did in the military. So I don't think the military made me any more driven or disciplined.
Mhm.
It maybe gave me some tools to like act on those things, but I don't think it made me any more driven or disciplined than kind of I already was naturally being like in high school. That I think that only kind of got to a portion of your question. Can you ask it one more time? I want to make sure I do a good job answering.
What drives you today?
Um, I think I have a responsibility to have a positive impact on others, and I take that really seriously. And if I don't do my part, I will fall short.
Was that sense of duty what drove you in high school, academically, athletically, and ultimately to join the military?
No, I think that's changed. I think my desire and drive to impact others positively is like more of a past few years thing. I don't think I thought
Okay.
about others that much like in high school. I thought a lot more about myself.
Okay. So what do you think drove you back then?
I just wanted to be like I just want to be really good at anything I got into.
Yeah, I get that. So I asked that question because I've been chewing on it a lot lately myself. And I think for a while, my drive, my listeners know I used to work 70, 80 hours a week, like clockwork. It was no biggie. I was making more money. The more I worked, the more money I made. And I think there was a deep down drive to prove myself, as well as to test myself, push myself. What is my potential? How capable am I? But it was definitely a need to prove myself. And ever since fatherhood, that has been completely blown up and is not nearly as strong and potent as it used to be. And for me now, it's a drive to show my son what's possible, to show him, life is full of challenges. Life can be incredibly hard. Anything worth fighting for is going to be hard. But I want to show him like just how far hard work, being a great person can get him, so that he knows damn well from day one that anything he desires is possible.
I think there's a degree of wanting to prove myself to myself,
Hmm.
which is why income like or profitability in one of our businesses this year like is a goal. Is it possible to create an environment where that result exists through the problems that your team solved?
Well said. So currently, what is an invisible routine, ritual, or habit that you have that allows you to fill your cup and continue to put forth your best effort to honor and achieve this mission you have?
An invisible routine? Like
Yeah,
it's
like what's
like
something somebody might not know? Like we know you go to sauna plunge, we know you go to the gym. What else do you do to really stay locked in?
I think I'm probably locked like this. I'm using air quotes if this is on audio. I think I'm probably less like locked in than people from the outside looking in probably would believe. I don't think being locked in all day is a good thing. I think you need to give yourself some space. Even if you're still
Mm.
thinking about the things, like I think you need to give yourself some space from problems sometimes.
What's that
Um,
look like
I
tangibly for you?
I took a personality test a while back, and it was the culture index, and
Uh-huh.
I take it I think usually at least every year, And it told me something like the following. It was like, James will get distant, not because he's opposed to like interact with other humans, but that space allows him to think and evaluate the problems to come up with a solution more clearly. I was like, I've never heard something more true than that about myself. It's not because I dislike, like, I don't want to not spend time with you because I dislike you. I want to not spend time because I have these problems I'm thinking about, and I don't yet have a solution for them, and I need to come up with a clear solution. And
Yeah.
I can't fully engage with if I'm in that mode. And it's just like another thing that is draining. Um, it's so that might surprise people, you know. So
Surprised me.
yeah, I'm probably what was that? I think that NVIDIA guy. There was a recording. It was like, I'm always working, and if I'm not working, I'm thinking about work. And I was like, I can relate. I can relate. I don't always want to be thinking about work, but like it naturally comes up because my work means a lot to me. It's very
Yeah.
purposeful.
How structured are your days? Meaning, is every hour blocked out with a priority?
Yeah, it's pretty structured. I would say it's like 8 out of 10. If 10 out of 10 is like every 15 minutes has a spot, I don't like that. I think that leads to less flexibility on stuff. But I would say it's 8 out of 10.
Do you structure downtime or that intentional space?
Yeah, so I'm gonna get back to this soon, but we used to have no meeting Monday, Friday,
Hmm.
for like no outside of the organization type meetings. So we've changed that and we now do meetings like we're recording this on a Friday. So but I'll get back to that here soon. It kind of depends on the volume of stuff we have going on.
That makes sense. Yeah, for me, like I put on my calendar just an hour every day. It's like I think I write meditation slash sauna, but it's just downtime, nothingness of closing my eyes so I can, like you, let all those problems kind of percolate unconsciously while I'm just resetting, recharging, and then I can come tackle them with a fresh mind or a different perspective.
Yeah.
I like that. So today, does your structure optimize more for time or for your energy levels?
I think there's an inherent benefit to being able to still show up and get the work done when you're not feeling like at your right like energy level or whatever.
Hmm.
I don't think you want to stay there like indefinitely, but like, hey, if something needs to get done and you're just like we've all had those days where you're just like not feeling it. I personally believe if you can stick to what you know needs to get done despite your lack of like not feeling it, then those days matter a lot more, or the things you do on those days matter a lot more than just like you going through the motions on days that feel great. Because the
Yeah.
reality is in this game, there are going to be days that don't feel great and you're not feeling it. So I don't really personally, I don't love to give a lot of credence, a lot of emphasis on like, hey, is your energy supporting that today? Like, nah,
Yeah.
man, you got to get that shit done. And it
Yeah.
doesn't matter if you're, guess what, in SEAL training, like if you're just kind of having like an off day and you're not feeling strong, you're still going to do the same thing as you
Yeah.
normally do. And I view it, I really do view it that way. The one thing I think though is if you're really starting to feel like that every day and those days turns into weeks and those weeks turn into months, and you stay there for a long time, I think that becomes bad.
Yeah. Do you tackle, I don't know how you frame it, like your big three, your highest priority tasks first thing in the morning?
Not always, because a lot of times, especially in like real estate development, we are doing tasks with third parties. And so we can only go so
Hmm.
far when it comes to third parties. And so, a lot of that is during the day. To the extent possible, I like to get stuff that is in my control out of the way when I can do it uninterrupted, like not during
Yeah.
normal work hours.
Yeah. So I have a different experience with the time versus energy optimization. Like I hear what you're saying and I agree. Like shit still needs to get done. And I every night before I plan my top 3 tasks. They get done no matter what 95% of the time. I guess the way that I viewed kind of a shift more towards optimizing energy is my self-care non-negotiables are on my calendar before my coaching calls, podcasting, et cetera. So that's a way to make sure because I know there's a level of me that would take 12 calls a day. And I almost have to protect myself from that version of myself because I know at some point the ROI or my ability to perform, coach, and lead on those calls greatly diminishes. So by ensuring I'm prioritizing self-care and that therefore leaves less room for fewer calls, I'm able to have the energy I need, especially my type of coaching. It can be quite heavy emotionally speaking, and that can be draining versus some other industries or what a day-to-day might look like for another professional.
Yeah. I think that's great. I think you found what works for you and you're doing it.
Yeah, and it's always trial and error. It's always willing to fine tune, adjust, and learn. So let me get you out of here on this. If you sat across from somebody who on paper looks incredibly successful, financially, their impact, their company culture they've built, but internally they feel anxious, overwhelmed, disconnected, what would you tell him or her?
First day here? I think that's how it's going to be sometimes. Not hitting your goals is stressful. Not knowing if you need to keep an employee around because they've given you indications that they're not a core values fit, that's anxiety inducing. Having a deal that gets to the finish line and doesn't close the day before it was supposed to, and it all goes to shit, like that is an obstacle in life, right? And so I tend to think, I mean, this is why I'm like so grateful for my military experience is when we started training, they're like, the whole goal of this training is to take you mentally way further than you thought was even possible. And they do a good job of it. You can go further than you thought possible. And when I talk to entrepreneurs, I'm like, it's going to be way harder and require more persistence, commitment, and your um, focus than probably you ever imagined.
Yeah.
And it can also be worth it. And so, like,
Hmm.
do I think you should try to create an environment where all those things go away? No, I don't. They're going to be a thing. If you just try to ignore them or try to think they're not going to be a thing, that's not real life. So be aware of them. Take care of yourself. Make sure you're putting things into motion that are going to help you unwind and kind of find the relaxation to the extent possible that is good for your lifestyle. But those things are very real and they're not going to go away.
I love the candor. Exactly what I expected, nothing less. Tell the listeners where they can go to learn more about you, to connect with you, and potentially be a part of all the great work you're doing here locally in Tampa.
Yeah, the best place is on our Instagram at JPL Invest. That's probably the main place that we have a lot of our educational stuff. We have, real estate development stuff, talk about the environment and the group and all the cool business things that we're up to.
Yeah, it's nonstop. I encourage you to give him a follow. I'll put some links in the show notes to help you best and most effectively connect with James. Dude, thank you so much for your time, your
Thanks,
vulnerability, and
Paul.
your wisdom.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
What an incredible conversation. Raw, deep, honest, vulnerable. These are the types of conversations that you need to be having more frequently with yourself, with the right peers, a mentor, a coach, a leader who is in your corner. I trust that whatever it is woke you up from what James shared today, smacked you in the face, confronted you with the honest truth you've been avoiding. I trust that you will take action. You will take action to do different so you can both be and achieve different. You're going to find a lot of value taking a few moments to go connect with James on Instagram, checking out his website. And I can't recommend it enough. If you are here local to the Tampa Bay area, go inquire further about joining one of his coaching programs and communities. He's doing phenomenal work. Thank you again for listening to today's conversation. It's my hope that you are now ready to take action, whether that be on your own, with a mentor, or even with myself, through applying for one-on-one private coaching below so that you can get unstuck, lock in, and level up. Share this episode. There is somebody in your circle who needs to hear this truth, the raw vulnerabilities of what it takes to achieve next level success. Share this episode, take action to get better from what it is you heard today, and I'll catch you in the next episode.